Hi. Right? I think we're on. Welcome to Cambridge Inside Out.
And my name is Robert Winters.
And Judy Nathan, special election edition.
Election edition. I hear Massachusetts today is Super Tuesday.
And yeah, we should remind people, if you are watching this and you haven't voted, you have plenty of time. Polls close at 8 p.m.
That's right. Exactly right.
Right. You have to be registered.
That's right. And let's see. And just, I think everybody should know that in addition to today being the presidential primary for Massachusetts, there's not that many things on the ballot, but there are things like Democratic committee man, Democratic committee woman for the various, I think they're keyed by senatorial districts, though I'm not sure.
Yeah, I had I didn't know them, so I didn't vote. It was just one person in each. They weren't contested.
There was only one that was contested, and I did. Yeah. And Brian Corr was the candidate, and he's a friend, so I voted for him.
Brian Corr.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is, not that, I think it's kind of a dying institution, but there are a Republican city committee and Democratic city committees, which I think historically were much more active than they are typically these days. And within each of these committees, there are ward committees. So I live in Ward 6.
I live in Ward 5, I believe, right? Ward school?
We're consecutive wards.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And they were electing the Ward 6 Democratic City Committee. It is selected
as was mine. Yes.
Right. So strangely, this is just one of those sort of oddities that you might not even know about. If you were interested in it, you probably wouldn't even know that you could be on the ballot.
Really?
Yeah, I think I was actually a member of the Ward 6 committee, but I think the person who was putting together the slate doesn't like me, so I was excluded from the slate. So
you put your name in.
And not only did I put my name in, I sent an email message to a bunch of friends. In the neighborhood the night before, or I guess, maybe Sunday night, saying, hey, do me a favor, write me in. And the threshold's actually amazingly low. In my case in Ward 6, they say you can vote for up to 35 candidates for the ward committee, and there were 25 names on the ballot. So now you might think, just if any 10 people get a write-in, they're in, right? Well, actually, there's a 5-vote minimum. So if I have more than 5 friends who are true
you have to get 5 votes to be even considered liable.
That's right. I think
viable.
If you don't get 5, you're sort of off, right?
All right.
So I contacted a few, and I know at least one other person who did the same. So it was funny. I was joking and just thinking about it. I said, I don't think the last time I asked somebody to vote for me was 16 years ago, so it didn't come so naturally.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Is that the council?
What's that?
16? No.
Yeah, I was a candidate back in the 90s, but the 90s, that was the last millennium. That was back in the Clinton years. Yeah. Yeah, long time ago. But it was fun. It was interesting, and it's kind of fun, and and actually it's kind of, it almost makes you warm up again to politics when you actually ask somebody to vote for you. Yes. And they don't cringe or run away. They go, oh, sure, I'll vote for you. And then you think, wow, this isn't such a bad process. I haven't done it so much.
Well, you don't have to raise millions of dollars like the other people, which is really awful.
When I would, back in the days when I was a candidate, or back when I worked in political campaigns over the years, which was actually for me a long time ago, which is something maybe we can talk about.
Because you have more of a history with that, where I can't say I got involved until 2008.
But sort of begging for a vote for somebody, or even trying to convince somebody to vote a certain way, or asking people for money. Some people take to that like a duck to water. I was always uncomfortable
asking for money, forget it.
Yeah, so it's...
taking money, if they want to give it to you.
Yeah.
Well, it depends, I guess, who you're taking it from.
There are even some city council candidates who are actually just, strange as this may sound, they're a little more comfortable just saying, I'll just fund my own campaign. They may not get a lot of money in that way, but...
Well, Craig is like that.
Yeah, Craig Kelly has often done it that way. This past year, maybe he got a little more outside money, but generally speaking, he's been primarily a self-funded campaign.
Like Trump.
Yeah, like
Although, actually, I heard that he also has some millions coming in from somewhere else. So that's really
perhaps so. Yeah. So now you've been on the stump not the Trump.
Yeah, right.
On the stump for
Hillary.
For Hillary.
Yeah, mainly in a couple times in New Hampshire, but in the last 2 weekends in Cambridge. Mark McGovern was one site. At his house, he had Cecile Richards, president of Planned Parenthood, kicked off our canvass 2 weeks ago, and then Maura Healey kicked it off this past weekend. She's a hot ticket.
Definitely.
Maura Healey, oof, I really like her. And then so I was canvassing in Cambridge. It was kind of eye-opening in a way.
You mentioned was it phone banking? Was it at Alice Wolf's?
Yes, that was last night. And what you do is you use your own cell phone, which is a little kind of
well, that leaves
strange.
Me out.
Right, you don't have to do it because that means your number's there. But last night we would leave messages, but today we didn't. Anyway, you use your phone, and if anyone's ever worked on this, you get these sheets. They're already identified as either Democrats. And at this stage of the game, probably have been contacted a couple times.
As they say
they're registered, in other words. These are not, obviously, and some have phone numbers.
Yeah.
But mostly landlines, I have to say.
My friend David Good, who used to run some local political campaigns, David would say, it sounded like, it's just like advertising, selling soap. It says, slick, repetitive contact with your most likely consumers, right?
Well, there's something to be said for that, because now I realize why they do it, because they're the ones that are going to show up for you.
It's true.
Very reliable. And you know that from looking at voting records, right?
Absolutely true.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. The thing is I primarily track the local city council, school committee campaigns.
I'm talking locally too.
But one thing is certainly true, and this goes beyond just political campaigns. It's just generally true for people who are prone to make donations to charities. Once you make a donation to charity, the likelihood that you will be willing to make another donation to another charity is pretty high. So consequently, there's this downside to being charitable, which is that once you do it, your number might get in a database, and then
there are ways to not have that declared, but you're right.
It's an unfortunate downside, but charitable people are still going to be charitable people, I suppose.
Right.
But you want to be kind to charitable people too.
Yes. Yes. But people do get not harassed, but called a lot. I mean, when we were in New Hampshire recently, it's just like, this is the 5th time someone's got. They just.
Yeah. But a human being making the call is still a lot more pleasant than the robocall.
That's right, and a human being knocking on your door. That's called what, retail politics? Or?
Yeah, and really, in real politics, that's what really gets the most bang for the buck.
Rallies are great, but unless you're going door to door, did Bernie go into all the dorms and stuff? I don't know. I'm making a bad joke. I like Bernie, but if most of his support is from students.
I know.
Then how do you get to them?
There's a tremendous schism, I think, in there. So the Bernie Sanders, the core voters tend to be the millennials and whatnot, right? Who are not usual. I mean, you can get them to vote, and if you do, you can throw elections over to the other side. But the most tried and true voters are very much in the 56 to 70 range. That's really the prime time voters in all elections. Municipal elections especially true. I think when you talk about national elections, it becomes a little bit more of a match. In fact, demonstrably so to the actual registered voter population. If you draw histograms by age distribution, which I've done, I've actually put some on this program, I believe. You really do see that if you look at the regular distribution of ages, in the registered voter list, and then you look at the ages of the people who vote in a presidential election, they're really not that far off, right? So the thing is that the fact that when you get down to state elections, primaries, presidential primaries, municipal elections especially, the shift is dramatic, so that it tends to be older voters.
Well, people that have been in the area for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, students can register where they're going to school, which is true for a lot of the primaries.
Yeah,
but
the younger voters, typically it's a very volatile group. Sometimes they show up and sometimes they don't show up. Sometimes they vote one way, sometimes they vote another way. I think they tend to swing a little more freely. than older voters do.
But I don't mean to say that all of his supporters are just students, because they're not.
Oh, no, definitely not. I mean, I just got a message from a friend one of the people I asked to write me in for the ward committee, and he, and I said, in my message out there, I said, just in case, if it matters to you, because, I said, I'm voting for Hillary Clinton.
Oh.
And, because I wanted to say, well, if you hate people who vote for Hillary Clinton, then
you may not want
I
to.
want to at least inform you so that you might decide you don't like me anymore or something, right? So I'm trying to be upfront and honest.
Right, yeah.
So he gave me a vote back and says, well, I voted for you, 2 other people on there for the ward committee. And it says, and then he ends his message with a PS. Says, if it matters to you, I voted for Bernie.
Yeah.
So some of my friends vote that way as well. Yeah, absolutely. It's been interesting watching. I'm not a person who necessarily believes in polls because they're so, especially in this year, this is the strangest election. The
crazy.
polls just shift around based on the silliest of reasons. But I was looking at, one of the sources of polling data that I tend to put a fair amount of stock in is in a site called Real Clear Politics.
Oh, I've heard of that, yeah.
And they aggregate polls from all around.
They do, so they kind of
they average them in
together.
time, so that you get a much more running average. So they don't just sort of say, here's the latest and greatest anomalous poll that shows the opposite of what everybody else is doing.
Do they get to do people quote them on like CNN
Yes,
and stuff?
they do, actually.
They do? Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I think people from Real Clear Politics sometimes show up as the panelists.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was interesting when I was looking at on the, I'm still, let me dispense with a Republican presidential primary a bit first here.
Yeah.
I'm still just bewildered by the fact that Donald Trump is polling at around 45%
in
Massachusetts, which is actually better numbers than anywhere.
That's right. That's what I was talking about.
And all I can do is speculate. I thought maybe the fact that Massachusetts is not one of these Bible Belt type of states where
There's a lot of white voters, though.
A lot of white voters, to be sure, but the thing is that it's not a state where where the evangelical vote is going to swing the election and where candidates will pander to that vote like they do in some other states. So consequently, if you're one of the more religious right type of Republicans, you're not going to necessarily get much traction in Massachusetts at all.
No.
I mean, the only positive thing I can say about Trump, am I biased? Yeah, fine, I'm biased. Let me come clean on this.
Yeah.
The only positive thing I can say about him is he doesn't, if he panders toward a religious subgroup, he's just doing it because he's lying and he's not really hiding that. Right.
He will be what you want him to be,
right.
And that's it. It's just,
yeah. So I think it's just the fact that that Massachusetts is not really guided typically by religious criteria in choosing candidates is probably one of the reasons, at least, why he's doing even better here than other places. I'm still hoping for a brokered convention, but now I'm starting to think it's less likely.
Before you go into that, I'm going to say something, and this is not against women because I love women, but I was looking up how many kids he has. He has been married 3 times, all models,
right?
And they get younger each time.
Yeah.
He was married, like 20 years of the first Ivanka, and then Marla Maples. He has a 22-year-old with her, and then he has a 9-year-old with the current Melania.
Right.
They all were models, and they were all from other. I don't know if Marla was from another country, but the first 2 were from Eastern Europe.
As Zero Mostel said in The Producers, when you got it, baby, flaunt it, right?
So he has kids from 38 to 9.
Yeah. Well,
interesting. Okay.
And I'm sure they'll all be set for life.
Yeah, and
right. But it was interesting watching the volatility in the Massachusetts polls on the Democratic side.
Where did you see? So
these were aggregated through Real Clear Politics, and I didn't write down all this. There was Rasmussen polls, there was CNN polls,
let's just see these.
But the interesting thing is that if you went back to last October, which actually wasn't that long ago.
No, but a lot of things changed. Right. New Hampshire, she was way ahead.
Right. Too. So back then it was Clinton ahead of Sanders by 34%. 59 to 25.
In Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts.
Okay.
In November, 54 to 29, so it dropped to 25% gap. Mm-hmm. But then when you got from November to December, January to February, like early February, February 14th, which is really, 3 weeks ago?
Well, this was after, though, New Hampshire, where she was
After New
blown
Hampshire, right.
Not blown out,
So then it shows up as Sanders 49%, Clinton 42%.
So she went below.
So it's a 7% advantage. And the moment that poll came out,
Yeah.
because these are individual polls now.
Okay.
As soon as that came out, people said, "Oh, the Sanders they're surging. It's
Yeah,
feel
right.
the burn." Blah, blah, blah. Immediately, you try and capture that momentum and put the narrative out there, like as something like the everything's changed. The
Right.
world has changed.
Right.
I said I think this is kind of a little bit of a flash in the pan. Nobody's saying there isn't a constituency there, but I think that was
Right.
not a particularly telling one.
I think it was a reaction in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I think so.
People like winners.
Right. A few days later, it was a dead tie, 46-46.
Interesting.
And then in subsequent polls,
even a
I've got
couple
4
days
of them here from
Yeah.
ending in the 23rd, 25th, 27th,
Okay.
28th. It went 49-44, so 5% for Clinton, 47-44, 3%
Okay.
advantage. On the 27th, 50-42, 8% lead. And then the latest one, which was 2 days ago, 54-43, 11% lead. Now,
That's changed a lot. I think it's more like now maybe 6.
it averages out to about 6.7.
Yeah, right,
so
yeah.
the likelihood is Clinton still wins Massachusetts. But the thing is the
Yeah.
volatility is such that, by 10, well, actually probably know a little sooner for Massachusetts, but by after a sufficient time has passed after the closing of the polls tonight, it wouldn't surprise me if Sanders still managed to squeak out Massachusetts.
Really?
It wouldn't surprise me. It will disappoint me, but it wouldn't
Not be
surprise
good.
me.
It would not be good because I was listening, I listened to a lot of NPR and it's the national shows and they said Massachusetts, everyone's going to be looking at Massachusetts.
I think it's because basically, I mean, this is maybe a bit of an overstatement, but I think if Sanders doesn't win Massachusetts, he's toast. Honestly.
No, I don't think that's true.
Well, the thing is, he's not going to win any of the southern states.
Yeah, but he's not toast because he's going to come close.
He'll have enough reason to carry on. But
I mean, he's
thing
next
is,
to Vermont. He's going to take Vermont, so, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but the thing is that if you can win your own home state, the neighboring state, and another neighboring state maybe, I thought, there are a lot of dynamics. I don't fully understand all the dynamics that went on in the South Carolina primary, but it was a well-attended, consequential primary, and it was 3-1 Clinton over
Well,
Sanders.
I think all of the, especially women, African-American women that really were supporters maybe in 2008 had to go with Obama. So I think she had a lot of support from African-Americans said, okay, now we're really going to throw
Now's
it to
your
them.
chance, yeah.
So I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
She has a history. We'll see. But I guess he's counting on, what's the other one tonight? Is it Minnesota? Is Minnesota?
Minnesota is another state that I don't know if that's tonight.
He's been campaigning there. I think that is tonight, or Michigan.
You might be
one
right.
Of the
I know
M's.
he's been there, as has Hillary as well.
Right.
That is a state where, with the Democratic Farm Labor Party and the Democratic Party.
Right. It might be a caucus, too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I did see a reference to showing up with your caucus. He has a good shot
counting
at that.
on that, yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, these will be somewhat anomalous results, I think.
Maybe.
We'll see anyway. I mean, there's
12
still
states, they said, so that's a big chunk.
But if you don't get at least something going, by the time you get to the really consequential states, which would matter for somebody like Sanders, which would be places like
California,
New York, and California.
California's in June, so.
And that's in June,
New York,
So
I don't know where New York is.
Well, it's sooner. I may have it written down, but it's if you don't start at least winning some of the other states,
we should refer that the way the Democrats apportion delegates is different from the Republicans, which really makes the difference. That we do it based on how many votes, and you get this many delegates. Where the Republicans, it's winner take all, which is what's really affecting Rubio.
I was looking at one of the maps about that, and
some of them are not.
A lot of the Democratic, there's still a lot of Democratic states that are winner-take-all states.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
But maybe not coming up. That's why he's
maybe
still
not right
going to.
away.
It's not going to be like what they say with Rubio and And Cruz, they're going to have to either, if they don't win their own states, they have to back out.
What I read today is that they redid some of the way they do it for the Republican states,
That's
so that
right.
there are more winner-take-all states early.
Yeah, but I think they're going to. So they're sorry they did that.
I think they're horrified.
I think they're horrified they did that because that's why Trump is winning.
That's exactly right.
Based on really not that many people voting when you think about it.
Absolutely right.
You know, it's crazy.
But the thing is that the way the Democrats, I think, is that the major winner-take-all states tend to happen a little bit later in the cycle.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that maybe next week because I'm not sure. But I know that there's more states than not that it's apportioned, so that's why she went till June last time, just because the delegates were so close, the counting of the delegates.
That's right, yeah.
And the big difference with her is the superdelegate count.
Right.
She's got like 400 something.
Yeah,
that's the difference right now.
I was laughing. It was one. I forget where I read it somewhere. A message. Maybe it was. I think it was one of these MoveOn.org.
I don't get them anymore.
Honestly, I think MoveOn.
Back in 08. Sorry.
I've been getting the MoveOn.org
well, you have to keep on top
alerts
of this stuff.
just because I follow it. But now they've basically become the Bernie Sanders political organization.
They became Obama's before it was even a whisper, and I said, forget it.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
It's a process that I've actually seen play out locally, statewide, where a group begins with a well-intentioned, like MoveOn.org, the name, because I got alerted to it by you.
Well, wasn't it all about the impeachment of Bill Clinton?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was as the impeachment of Bill Clinton process was dragging on,
99?
and basically the message being said by the founders of MoveOn.org was, I think we need to move on from this.
That's right.
And get back to talking about the country.
Right.
And at the time, the organization, it may have been partisan Democrat, but it was not. They didn't see themselves as political power brokers. What happened?
It was definitely partisan Democrat.
Right, but what happened was this rather small group of people who were kind of at the core of MoveOn.org said to themselves, "Ooh boy, we've got clout. Let's use it." And they became more and more opinionated,
influential,
more and more defined by their ability to raise money quickly, and their ability to back select candidates in order to prove to everybody how powerful they were.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's an overstatement, but they're sort of if you were to take the Koch brothers and distribute them broadly and make them Democrats, there you've got MoveOn.org. They're very opinionated as far as I'm concerned, and I've kind of written them off as being sort of.
I just was very disappointed because I think they took a poll of their members and it was like 300 people or 300. They then decided, okay, now we're going to endorse
we're all
Obama.
Set,
This is way early in the process, and I said, hold on, so I said, take me off.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah.
So they're definitely in Bernie's.
Oh, they've changed their logo, and now it's Move On Bernie, or it's it's
maybe I'll check it out
insane.
without subscribing. Okay.
I mean, I have to look at that though. There is a phrase I think in chess called the poison pill. And I think
is that from chess?
I think it's, maybe I'm not wrong on that, but I've certainly heard it used in other contexts where basically if you swallow this, you think you're doing something, but then it comes back and knocks you off. To me, if you define yourself so thoroughly as a Democratic partisan campaign for the extreme left-wing guy like Sanders, and then if Hillary Clinton survives to become the Democratic Party nominee and then perhaps gets elected as president of the United States, how many people of the Clinton campaign are going to show much love?
Yeah. But you know what? They don't care because then they're probably going to immediately start endorsing Elizabeth Warren for president 4 years later. Who knows?
Right.
I just.
But what you do is you slowly but surely narrow your focus so that you become pigeonholed.
But that's who they are, and I don't think they mind being
that's what they've become.
They have become.
They're no longer about moving on. They're about moving left.
And there's other groups, so I'm not that concerned about that.
Yeah. So
anyway. Go back to, you were going to say something. Oh no, you finished that. What are these figures here?
Well, those are just the ones for the Republican. We're right now.
That's so scary.
The average for Trump was 45%, and then it just bottoms off to Rubio at 18.5, Kasich at 15.3, and then Cruz at 11%. right? It doesn't surprise me that Cruz is way down there.
No, especially in Massachusetts.
Or that Rubio is actually second because people are trying to find some alternative.
Right.
But we'll see how it plays out. I imagine those numbers will actually be not far from reality for tonight. When we actually start to see the result here. So anyway, we'll say, I'll maybe say one other quick thing here. We only got a couple minutes for this segment, and we'll say a little bit more. Maybe I was actually talking beforehand, so maybe we'll tell you a little bit about our own political histories here. Tales from the trails. Yeah. But one of the things that I mentioned on the last program, which I thought it was pretty significant, was at the city council meeting that was coming up. In addition to the usual stuff on the agenda, the one thing that was not on the agenda, but which was most consequential, was there was no reference to the required vote the city council should take to enter into negotiations or show their intention to enter into negotiations for a possible contract extension to the city for the city manager.
There was a deadline for that? There was
March 1st. It was today.
And they didn't do it last night?
It wasn't on the agenda, which had me a little nervous.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm a fan of Richie Rossi.
Right.
And I saw him at he had an opening ceremony for the King's School.
Oh, you were there.
Or the Putnam Ave School, which was really kind of cool.
Yeah, I've been in the school.
And I talked to a couple city councilors, and they said, well, Richie didn't say anything. And another person said, well, maybe David will put in an order. Well, that's what happened. David Marr put in an order, and it was, nobody voted. It was not on a voice vote, so it's not like they did a roll call. Pretty much just say we are declaring our intention to enter into negotiations. That is not the same as saying we have a contract. Right. It just basically says, let's talk, let's get that process going. It was one city councilor, Mazin, actually said, well, this is, don't read into this more than it is. This is really just the beginning. This is just a placeholder vote. I thought, well, come on. It's not a placeholder vote. Yeah. It's a sincere intention. Whether it leads to a contract or not, we'll see. Yeah. But at least they got it. They met the deadline.
They met the deadline.
And everything's cool. So anyway, we're pretty much out of time here. So until 3 minutes from now.
And go vote if you haven't voted yet.
Please vote.
Yeah.
See you then.